Our path is one of meditation and service, because these two are a continuum. They're designed to help each other. As Yogananda says here, we have to learn to become calmly active, actively calm. And on our path, service energizes the meditation, and meditation calms the activity. Swami would often talk about sadhus living in the Himalayas who had gotten lazy, who had essentially lost their vocation, even though that's more of a Western concept. But they had become, through inactivity, having less and less energy. And it takes energy to find God. It takes dynamic will, focus, energy. And through activity, we can develop those things so that our meditations are dynamic, vibrant, that we're not falling asleep. We're focused at the spiritual eye. We can feel divine life pulsing through our bodies and brains and souls. That's meditation. It's not the nodding off. That's why we need activity. We need to clean the house when the in-laws are coming. We need to take care of those children. We need to cook the meals like Martha did. Maybe not quite like Martha did, but with, well, I like to think of that story of Martha and Mary. You know, you don't get the whole story. It just ends with Jesus saying, "Martha, Martha, thou art careful and troubled about many things, but Mary hath chosen that good part which shall not be taken away from her." So, and that's the end of the story. So we don't know, what did Martha do then? Did she say, "I'm always doing all the work around here," and stomp out and that was it? No dinner for anybody? Or did she humbly get it and say, "Lord, I'm sorry. I was restless. Let me serve now with attunement and with love in my heart"? Or maybe Mary, her sister, who had been feeling that love and attunement in her heart, maybe she said, "Lord, I didn't realize my sister was struggling. I'm happy to go help her." We don't know. But all these things are things to meditate on, because that story tells us a lot about service. Service is purification, as meditation is too. But service doesn't come, selfless service doesn't come automatically, any more than unconditional love comes automatically. It is a process. And we all start on the spectrum, and that spectrum of service starts with serving egoically, sort of like Martha was serving, thinking about herself. I'm doing all the work. What's that? What are these other people doing? They're not serving as well as I am. Or looking at everything we do as for myself instead of thinking of others. Giving purely, giving freely. And it's very interesting because service can be done with ego even in the most menial tasks. And the opposite is true too. The greatest kings can serve without ego. And that's the purification process, learning to serve without the ego. I remember once when we were living in India, there was a little man who would drive around on a bicycle with a cart and collect garbage. And this man had so much ego, just in that simple task. Just, you could tell by the lift of the head and the spirit of just, I am just the greatest at what I do. And conversely, I remember a time this was long ago in the 80s, I visited Pompeii. And it's out in, it's not very civilized, and there's a little restroom off to the side, and there was a little Italian man, ancient, old, little shriveled up guy, and he was passing out little pieces of paper for people. I can't imagine a more humble job. And yet, he had the sweetest face, the kindest face, the eyes of a saint. You don't know what people have been through, where they're coming from, who they are, where they are on the spectrum of life and evolution. Saints are everywhere. And no matter what we do in life, no matter what our job, whether it's a very important position, whether it's President of the United States or sweeping the floor, no matter what it is, we can have that same love and attunement in our hearts that Mary had sitting at the feet of Jesus. Brother Lawrence was a monk many centuries ago, and he was a cook in the monastery. So he wasn't the abbot, he wasn't the administrator, he didn't oversee all the lands and the produce and everything. He was a cook in the kitchen. But he was so devoted, and he said that after practicing the presence of God, that's what he's renowned for all these centuries later, he practiced the presence of God with him in his own heart in every moment. He said he could pick up a straw from the ground with the same devotion as he felt during the Vespers, the religious ceremonies of the monastery. So let us work on that spectrum of service. And every time we see ego raise its ugly head, watch for it. Don't deny it. Look at it squarely and say, what are my motives in service? What do I really, am I trying to get something here? Am I trying to look good for the boss? Am I trying to look good for that boss? Or am I doing this from love? Am I doing it from a sense of wanting to help? Dharmadas, many years ago, toured around India, just he and another monk. And after the tour was over, he said to me, this other man that I was traveling with, that wasn't even the punchline yet. But I'm glad you liked the story. This other man was either meditating, sleeping, or trying to help. In other words, in every waking moment of his life, he was trying to help. He was trying to do something to help. And that's our lives. That is the purification process. Whenever anyone asks you for help, see if you can help them. And in that giving, you will be purified. In that giving of energy, you will energize yourself. The channel is blessed by that which flows through it. This is one of those mornings where God is calling here. That purification process is what we are all about. Learning to love unconditionally is the same way. It's very interesting in this reading that the Bhagavad Gita says, "Who is free from egoic desires and their attendant fear and anger, such a one is of steady discrimination." Remind yourself, desires lead to fear and anger because they're always thwarted. We never get what we want. And if we do get what we want, then we get bored with it. So purify the heart's natural love, and that comes through service too. God bless you.
This Bhagavad Gita reading is speaking about even-mindedness, and it's interesting that it is juxtaposed with this other reading of the Bible with Martha and Mary, because Swamiji's pointing out in the Martha and Mary story that Martha evidently was not doing it in an even-minded way. She got caught up in the process. And of course, all of us at one time or another have gotten caught up in the process, because that's why we go through the process. You know, if you score 100 on every single test that you ever take in your life, it reminds me of a sort of dating myself here, but one of these episodes from, I think it was the Twilight Zone ages ago, where the guy goes into a casino. I think he doesn't realize that he's died, and he thinks he's going into this casino to play, and so he puts his money down and he goes to the roulette wheel or the whatever game he decides to play, and he wins. Oh wow, that's exciting. And then he puts his money down again and he wins again. And he never ever loses. And he starts to figure out that something's really weird here. And so, I mean, imagine if in your life all you ever did was a smash success, instant, immediate success. How would you learn? How would you grow? What would you grow into? So all of us are challenged, and I'll share. This past week I had a challenge that I didn't anticipate coming this week, but it did. I had a couple of wisdom teeth pulled, which hopefully doesn't mean that I've lost half my wisdom. But anyway, this was something that was a long time in coming, and I did not, for those of you who remember Swami Kriyananda and his experiences in the dental chair, I did not go without Novocaine. Or anesthesia. I did avoid the anesthesia thing. They wanted to knock me out. I said, nothing doing. I don't do knockouts. We're not going there. So, but the Novocaine thing, you could do the Novocaine thing. That's okay. That's all right. So I did that. But you know what was interesting about it is that it was surprisingly stressful. And even though it wasn't particularly painful in the moment, yes, it was a little painful later on, but that sense of self got a little bit challenged, and I noticed that. And referencing what Nirmala was saying, all of us have to observe. We have to learn to observe. Now, it's not that I was particularly serving in the dentist chair. I mean, I just went there, I had it. This thing was over in like 7 minutes. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was so fast. I didn't even realize that he had gotten the first one out. I thought he was still working in there, and it turned out he was stitching it up. So, and then the next one, and then by that time I figured, oh, I guess he is done. I had my eyes closed, so I wasn't watching anything happening as he was doing, and I figured, let's just avoid that. But that sense of equanimity, it wavered. It definitely wavered for a moment. And I did not like that wavering feeling. And it just made me realize, that centeredness, it may have an outward appearance that doesn't go deep enough. And when it does go deep enough, yes, we can in fact stand unshaken amidst the crash of breaking worlds, as Yogananda put it. That's what we have to learn to become able to do. Whether it means the pots are boiling over in the kitchen and you don't have enough help to serve the meal, or whether it means whatever it may mean in your life, that centeredness will eventually go deep enough that nothing can shake us out of it. And we have to appreciate those challenges as and when they come. There's another piece of this reading that reminds me of something that happened a long time ago, in fact in high school. I don't know where these things come from. I have to think it's from another lifetime, but in the reading, Swami is saying, if we don't serve with the right attitude, then what happens is we accrue good karma, but we don't accrue the freedom from all karma that our soul is yearning for. Now that's a pretty subtle teaching. And in high school, in the English class that I had, which turned into a comparative religion section for one semester, we went to a Baha'i temple, we went to a Jewish synagogue, we went to a Christian church, we went to, must have been some kind of Islamic something, but I don't remember that very clearly. But I remember, and I don't remember a Hindu temple actually, because I don't think one existed in our area at the time, but later on it did. But I remember my English teacher standing in front of the class saying to all of us very definitively, he said, the goal of Hinduism is to accrue more and more and more good karma. And I raised my hand, 16 years old, brilliantly knowing everything, and piped up and said, excuse me, the goal of Hinduism is to be free of all karma. And I don't know where I knew that from, frankly. Seriously, I really don't. It must have come from another lifetime. But I absolutely knew that I was right. And he got deeply offended. That's sort of putting it gently. He was not happy. He did not like being challenged in that way, and let me know so. And I backed off. I didn't push it. I knew I was right, and I wasn't going to have it any other way, but he was determined that he was right, and he was the one in charge of the class, so I let it go. But it's interesting because for most people in this world, and frankly for many Hindus, really, truly, that is, what he was saying is actually the fact of the matter. Most people live their lives as a continuous accruing of better and better and better karma, instead of seeking freedom. They simply want better and better and better conditions in their life. I'm reminded also of a little image that Swamiji left us with, a memorably colorful image from the path that I read years ago. He was speaking of Yogananda and his role as the guru, his role as the teacher and liberator. He said it was not his job to tidy up the little mud puddles of our delusion, to make them nicer to be in. It was his job to remove us from them altogether. Now, if you think of a palace, one of these, I don't know, have you ever seen these places that go up for sale for like $100 million? That have like 45 bedrooms and, God knows what else. I mean, it's, a helicopter port and bowling alley and, indoor tennis court. I don't know, whatever. I mean, it's like it just goes on and there's no end to it. That is a mud puddle of delusion. It may be the most beautiful, gorgeous, incredibly ornate mud puddle of delusion, but you're still stuck in it. And, and then you've got it. Nirmala was saying, we never get what we desire. Well, actually, we do. The trouble is that then we're afraid to lose the darn thing. Then we get it. Oh my God. Then we have to take care of it. And then we get the shiny, beautiful car. Oh my God, somebody dented it. I can't believe it. I drive into the parking lot of the grocery store and I come out and there's a dent, or there's a scratch or there's whatever happened. Then there's just this sense of, oh no, I'm going to lose it. Or, my beautiful, youthful body, now there's not very many hairs left on the top of the dome, whatever. I used to have this curly red hair, and women just went wild over it. I mean, and I just couldn't care less. I was 11 or 12. It was just like, please, get away. I just had no use for that. And then it all fell out. Life goes on. I mean, what are you going to do? But this is one of the beauties of the meditative process is you get to go through the process without having to live through the process. You can visualize that desire. Okay, now I did win the lottery. I put the, oh my goodness, my 9 numbers, they finally came up. I won the bazillions. And then what? And statistically, people are miserable after they win the lottery. Unless there's a few, like 1% or 2% who are happy afterwards. And you know why? They're happy because they were happy beforehand. That's why. They were happy because they didn't actually really want it very badly. That just happened to be something they were doing. They won the lottery. One guy, I just really got a kick out of this. There was a monk, a vowed renunciate, who won the lottery, and he had vowed that if he won the lottery, he would give it away. And he did. He jolly well gave the whole thing away, and it was millions of dollars. And it didn't matter a bean to him. It was like, well, I said I would give it away. I'm giving it away. That gift of freedom, we don't necessarily realize. And this is something that we observed around Swamiji, and I'm sure many of you observed also if you got to see him closely. He never gave away his consciousness without intention. He never gave away his commitment without intention, because otherwise there's karma connected with that. Yes, he served people, from Nirmala was giving this example, morning till night, either meditating or helping. That was Swamiji also. And for him, it wasn't like there was some angst around it. It was just his natural instinct. It was the rising, this morning in the fire ceremony, I was noting the rising energy. I mean, you really can feel it. I mean, it's powerful. And if you hold your hand up above that fire, there's a lot of heat rising up. That rising energy was Swamiji's life. And it wasn't like it was a hard climb. I mean, that fire was going in him. What else is it going to do but rise? Of course it's going to rise. He gave himself, he gave his life for the service of Master in other people. That potential is for all of us. It's not like it's isolated to him. This coming week we'll celebrate his birthday on Thursday and celebrate that life of service, that gift that he's given to all of us, that legacy that he's given to all of us. And it's an amazing thing to realize and explore. We in our lives can find that balance between the inward and the outward, but it requires sensitivity and consciousness, and it requires this deep willingness to be wrong, which may sound really bizarre. It's the deep willingness to say, you know what? I gave it my best shot. Now can I do better the next time? Now can I aim more truly and clearly? Even if I think I nailed the target right in the bullseye. What if I nailed the target right in the bullseye, but I didn't get the attitude part right? You know, I owned it. I said, oh, it's mine. I got the bullseye. You know, we can do that. And then, yeah, we do own that for the moment. But know that that perfection is deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And it leads to a liberation that has us so uplifted. Well, you know, you see and you hear stories. In fact, on our tour to Italy a year and a half ago, we went to the place where one of these monks would levitate when he was giving the service, when he was doing the Mass. He would go up to the ceiling. In fact, coming from the Lutheran tradition myself, I remember this story particularly because there was a Lutheran who wanted to challenge him. He didn't believe that this was true. And so he was going to go down and expose the fraud that this, you know, all this commotion was. And St. Joseph, who is the saint, evidently knew this because he invited the man to come up and he grabbed hold of him. And when he went up, the Lutheran went up too. And it was said that he went up a Lutheran and he came down a Catholic. Anyway. But that levitation isn't, I mean, it's not a game, it's not a circus. I mean, he did that because God asked him to for whatever reason. But it's not our goal to levitate physically, it's our goal to levitate spiritually, to levitate in the joy of God, to be not held down to this world by anything. And we can. Every single one of us can do that. That is the potential, and that's the story of the Festival of Light that we're about to do after the song and after the offertory. But feel that freedom, even if you don't believe you have it yet. Break down that wall. If you have to do it with a jackhammer, break down that wall, that mental barrier that says, no, I'm not good enough. No, I can't. No, I didn't meditate very good. No, I can't meditate very good. Whatever it may be, I mean, fill in the blank. Whatever it is that prevents you from thinking you could have that freedom, get rid of it. Toss it in the fire next week at the fire ceremony, or build your own fire ceremony actually or mentally to this evening. Let that offering be your liberation, because that truly is your potential, our potential, and we only have to embrace it and grow into it, and it will become the reality. Namaste.